Hey card fighters, welcome to today's video. I am the Red King, and today we will be looking at my third of what is now 3 consecutive Dragonic Blademaster videos on Premium Dragonic Blademaster. I've previously put up a G error version and a standard version, so please, if you're at all interested, go and check them out. And as a forewarning forward before we get into this particular profile, I don't run any imaginary gift in this version, so there is no force for this. So yeah, let's just dig right in. So for the starter, we play Lizard Soldier Conroe. It's pretty basic. Everyone should know what Conroe is, especially if you play Premium in any way. He has the traditional Forerunner skill of Ride Move, and his other skill is you counterblast and retire him, search for a grade 1 or less from your deck and add it to your hand. So, you reveal it to your opponent, but yeah, whatever. So he's really good for, if you have a trigger with a skill, you can dig that out. If you need that key grade 1, or you want a stride fodder to correct into the ride grade 3 or anything like that, he's your guy. He's really good. So I think if you're playing Premium, there's really no better option than Conroe. On to the grade 3s. If you have What's My G Error, you will recognize this particular lineup. I run 4 copies of Dragonic Blademaster Coen. He's the second version of Blademaster to come out in G. He has the Blaze ability, and his stride bonus skill is when your G unit strides, you can counterblast 1, retire one of your opponent's units, and give any unit on the board with the Blaze ability 3000 power. That includes himself if the Striding Vanguard has the Blaze ability. His second skill, which is, why he's good, well, one of the reasons why he's good, is as a Vanguard only skill, at the end of each turn, if your opponent has no rear guards, you can get a grade 3 with the Blaze ability from your drop zone and add it to your hand. So he can refund the cost. If your deck's running the way it should, he can refund the cost of stride. And also, at each turn, which means at the end of your opponent's turn, if they have no rear guards, because you're playing, say, Pale Moon and it's all being absorbed, or Tachikaze or Shadow Paladin, and they've retired everything for various costs, you get to do it on their turn. So that's a nice little bonus that some people didn't actually realise. Yeah, 4 of those for me. I think 4's good. Next, I run 1 copy of the original Dragonic Blademaster in very nice SP. His stride bonus skill is when your unit strides, counterblast 1, retire one of your opponent's rear guards. Slightly worse than Coen's bonus skill. And his second skill is as a continuous G2 skill. During your turn, if you have more rear guards than your opponent, this unit gets 5000 power and critical +1. So, for those of you who are unaware, at the start of G, it was more common for you, because of the G zone limit, that you'd be having a turn where you didn't stride. So a lot of the early ones had that Vanguard skill, which made them viable as a non-stride option. So yeah, 1 of him, just as a sort of homage to where he started from. And then I run 2 copies of Wyvern Strike Joago. He has the Blaze ability, so you can bring him back with Coen skill. And his skills are counterblast 1, soulblast 1, when this unit is placed in Vanguard or rearguard, choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as this unit and retire it. So, he can take out any pesky starters, or, if he's on a rearguard, you can take out whatever's there. His secondary skill, which is also a Vanguard rearguard skill, is GB1. If you have a Blazing Vanguard, this unit gets 2k for each of your opponent's open back row circles. So if you have, for example, you've got 2 17k swings. The reason I like him is, A, he has the Blaze ability, so Corin can pull him back, and B, he's a rearguard grade 3 as well, so you can use him to further what the deck does. So I think playing 2 of him is good as another one. On to grade 2s. I ran 3 copies of the new Berserk Dragon. His skill is when plays, counter +1, soul +1, retire one of your opponent's rear guards, and if this unit is on the Vanguard, draw a card. So as a rear guard, it retires anyway, but you get that extra draw on a Vanguard, so it's nice to ride it as a grade 2. Its second skill, which is also nice, is when it attacks a Vanguard, if you have more rear guards than your opponent, it gets 3,000 power until the end of battle. So it's a 13k attacker. It retires on place. You know, it's a good card to have. You could easily bump it to 4. There's no argument against that, but I run it at 3 for reasons we will get into right now. 3 copies of Burning Horn Dragon. Again, the new Burning Horn. So, his skill is he's a grade 3 when you discard it from hand. So it's basically, it is a V promo, but you know it works really well in the Stride, in Premium with Strides. So he's basically a grade 2 Stride fodder, which helps a lot. And his second skill is when this unit is discarded during your turn, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, so again, works with Strides, if you need to, you can Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and retire it. So, you know, it's really nice because you can chuck it, Soul Blast, retire, and Stride all in one go. It's really nice. I love having this at 3. And I think if you have room for it, even if, you know, you can only play 2 because of other cards, you should play it, because I think this is a really good card to have in Premium. And for a Soul Blast, it's, you know, cheap. So, which always helps. Next I play 3 copies of Dragonite and Buddy. He's got the Blaze ability, and his skill is if you have a Blazing Vanguard with Blademaster in its card name, when this unit attacks, you can counterblast 1, draw a card, and it gets 2,000 power for each of your opponent's open rearguard circles until the end of battle. So, on your average game, he can get 10k, you know, because of the 5 spots. But if you're playing, say, Excel and you use his circle, you can get more than that. Which means, so, in an Excel deck, you can get him over 20. Against an Excel deck, you can get him over 20k. So I like having him at 3. I like having the draw. I like having the power. Yeah, I think he's very nice. I enjoy him, and I think he's a good card. Rounding off grade 2s, 2 copies of Bellicosity Dragon. It's a very simple skill. During your turn, when your opponent's rearguard is retired, this unit gets 5,000 power until the end of turn. So, you know, if you do what this deck wants, if you can board wipe a whole thing, minimum 25k off a full board wipe. Because again, against Excel, you can get higher numbers. But this can easily become a 20k attacker. You know, you can even push it to 30, 40 plus against Excel. Good to have 2 of. It's a good power hitter, so I think it's a nice card to round off the grade 2s. On to grade 1s, I play 4 copies of Flame of Hope Ermo. His first skill is he gets 3k when he boosts. He's an 11k booster for no reason. You know, it's awesome. And his second skill is when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your turn, you can draw 1 and countercharge 1 by retiring this unit. So, he's really good. He's a nice resource card. Again, he's 11k booster, and, you know, being able to draw and countercharge is really nice. Pretty much everything in this deck counterblasts for, you know, so you want that. You know, so you want the resource engine, and if there's resources that can be played, I will always play the resources, because, you know, you want to be able to keep playing the game, don't you? And next, Dragon Knight Nadal. Nadal? Yeah, Nadal. So he has the Blaze ability and the skill. It's a once per turn skill. When your opponent's rearguard is put into the drop zone due to the effect of a card, If you have a Vanguard with Dragonic Blademaster in its card name, until the end of turn, this unit gets, when your Vanguard becomes blazing, you can countercharge one and get 4k. So this is, again, a really good one. You activate this, when the skill goes off, you have an 11k booster, you countercharge one. You can only do this second skill once. And the reasoning behind that is because Blaze, your Vanguard only becomes blazing once. Because the keyword is becomes blazing until the end of turn. So there is no, you go Regard, Vanguard, Regard, and countercharge 3 and give him 12k. That does not happen. If it did, one, he wouldn't be common, and two, yeah, it'd be broken. But again, so mixing, it's good anyway. But mixing this with Outamo gives you 8 countercharge units in the deck. You can countercharge really consistently between them, and having 4 of this is also very nice in the Blademaster deck. So, yeah. Then we play 3 copies of Dragonic Tahir. Again, Blaze ability. His skills are, when he's placed on rearguard, if your opponent has more rearguards than you do, you can counterblast one and retire one of them. And he has the skill of a continuous, if your Vanguard is blazing, this unit gets 2000 power. So why I like having him is because, especially in this format, it's easy for a lot of decks to call a bunch of units during their turn, and then you have to take out most, if not a whole board, to get everything rolling. And again, if you're playing an Excel clan, he's really good, because that's when your opponent's got 6, 7, 8 rearguard potential. So he becomes really good because he's almost always retiring something. And for a second skill, he's pretty much, he's a 9k booster as well. So he hits a little bit of a bigger number as well. So then I run 3 copies of Lizard Soldier Raopia, yeah. Like Bellicosity, he has the same skill. When your opponent, during your turn, if your opponent's rearguard is retired, he gets 5k. So, again, like Bellicosity, you can get him to have really big numbers. If you pull off a maximum Titan turn and kill 3 units, he's 15k of Titan skill. Any other skills, that's 5k. The G8 and the board wipe, you can get him to massive numbers. Over 30k, depending on how many units your opponent has. So between him and Bellicosity, you can get some really strong columns going. So I think 3 of him's really nice. You can potentially rearrange the grade 1 lineup to play 4 if that's what you like, but I think 3 works well. And then finally for the grade 1s, I run a single Lava Flow Dragon. Between Kuen's Blaze ability to bring Blaze grade 3s back and the grade 2 Stride Fodder unit, you don't need more than 1. You could potentially make an argument that you have enough of a stride paying stuff to not need him, but having the 1 means if you get to that situation where you're a grade 2, you have a grade 3 in hand, but it's not Kuen, you can use Conroe, pull him out, correct into Kuen, and, boom, he's a useful card. So having 1 is just basically there to fill that option to allow you to correct if you absolutely need it. So I think 1's good. Onto the trigger lineup. I run 3, 5, 7 crits. Crits win games. What else needs to be said? Crits are good. Then I run 5 draws, 1 Gatling Claw. Again, you can search him out with Conroe. You can get rid of a pesky starter really early if you need to, and if it's there. And then I run 4 of the draw PGs because, well, yeah, it opens up more space in the deck to do stuff. So yeah, it's 5 of those. Then 4 heals, 2 of the Taras, because being premium, you still have access to G-Guard, so your G-Guard, you can bind these with Tara to get her skill off, and then I run the 2 Genjos because it's 20k shield, and, good, 2/2s are pretty common and, useful ratio. So that's that. And then going on to the G Zone, which, you know, some people probably won't like. 4 copies of Dragonic Blademaster Titan. I really like that. 1, I like his artwork, and 2, I think he's a little underrated. Most people tend to play him at like a 2 for some reason, or 3, or just not at all. So his skill is, first off, he has the Blaze ability. Then he has the skill of JB2. You counterblast 1, flip any unit in the G Zone face up, and for each face up copy of himself in the G Zone, you choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. And he gets the skill continuous. If this unit is blazing, you get critical +1. So at his highest point, you can retire 3 units. He goes critical. If you have, say, Raupia behind him, you have a massive center column that's critical with triple check. He works, you know, he can basically get Blaze off his own skill without having to use any other skills. And he's a good setup because it just gives you a couple turns where you can just nuke units. I like having him at 4. I personally would not play a Dragonic Blademaster deck without 4 of these. So, 4. Next, I run 3 copies of everyone's favourite Reasoner, Flare Arms, Ziegenberg. For anyone who was there at G, you probably remember that this card, you know, basically made Cargro a bit better, along with the Overlord thing. But I only play him at 3 instead of 4, because I don't think you need to play him at 4. I really don't. I've never thought that. His first skill is he has a Blaze ability, yay. You can Soul Blast 1 and flip 1 of himself, and retire 1 unit, there. And his third skill is, it's a once per turn skill, GB3, yeah. Counterblast 1, and discard as many cards in your hand as your opponent has rear guards. And is at the end of the battle, if this unit is blazing, stand this unit. And it gets drive -2. So it's a good skill. If your opponent has no board, it's a Counterblast 1 restand, which is really cheap, really easy, really free. Like, almost free. But I don't think you need to play him at 4, because if in the ideal circumstances, you don't need to flip, so you're just going to have the 1. If you need to flip, you can still use him, stride into him twice in the game. But ideally, you know, you're not going to go into him unless you're pretty certain you can get your opponent down to 1 or 0 rear guards. In which case, the cost is not at all harmful. You know, discarding 1 card from hand to restand is much better than, you know, discarding like 5. So, I think 3 is a good number. I wouldn't play it at more than 3. And I think if you do, you're playing it to use Ziegenberg, not to play Blademaster. Next I run the Nouvelle Stride. He doesn't have Blaze, which is good. I run him as an alternate option. His skill is a GB2 once per turn, counterblast, flip a copy of himself. And during the battle of this unit attack, your opponent cannot call grade 1 cards to guard circle from hand. And during the turn, during your turn, once this skill is activated, if your opponent has 5 damage or more, your opponent's trigger effects are nullified. So there is no miracle heals on his turn. So if you can get a field and get 2 or 3 units retired with other skills, you have strong units, you have this guy restricting from the hand on some level. If you can push for game, your opponent, even if you're playing, like, say, Oracle Think Tank, and they know there's a heal on top of the deck, he's just like, yeah, it doesn't matter. You have to guard everything or lose. So, yeah, I think he's a good alternative option. He's there if you want him, and he does come in handy at times because he can put the pressure on your opponent late in the game. Next, I run 1 Extend Grave Dragon, just as the first stride unit. So you flip any unit, you know, generally you'll flip a Titan to start off the Titan combos. But his skill is you counterblast 1, flip something. When this unit attacks, if it's blazing, you can retire one of your opponent's rear guards and draw a card. So he's literally there as a first stride. You don't use him later in the game. He's just there to flip Titan at the start and get the ball rolling. The ball. G8. I love him. He's so good. So as a G8, he's a free board wipe. So it's literally when this unit attacks, retire all of your opponent's rear guards, and all of your rear guards get 10,000 power. That's guaranteed. If you retire nothing, your rear guards still get 10,000 power. So, like, automatically, that's just awesome. Second part of the skill is, you know, once you've done all the retiring stuff, if 3 or more of your opponent's rear guards are retired, he gets 10,000 power and a critical. So once he goes off completely, every column's got plus 20k, he's gone critical, and especially in this deck with units like Bellicosity and Lizard Soldier Rapier and even Embody, you can hit so much extra power, and this unit can make your column so big, and it's so dangerous late in the game. And he's the best late game card. Honestly, I love him. On to G guards, and for what it's worth, no, I don't play the Xerath Dragon because he's stupid and I don't like him. I play 2 Denial Griffins. If you play Premium Cargo, you don't need an explanation. He's mean. For those of you who are unaware, his skill is counterblast 1. When this unit is placed in guard circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's attacking rear guards and retire it. The way this card works, the rulings for this card say that when the rear guard that's retired by its skill, its attack is also nullified. So it gets rid of it sort of before the calculate. I don't know the actual mechanics, but basically, if you could swing into your opponent with 100,000 power and 50 crits with like a if I hit game over skill sort of thing, and if you kill it with this, none of that matters. 100k, nothing. Crits, nothing. On hit win, nothing. So yeah, you play him at 2 because he's mean. He can really disrupt opponents' stuff, and it's just too good. It's too good not to play 2. And I play 1 Absalam. He's your big shield guy. He's the one you use when you need that. So when your Vanguard is being attacked by your opponent's Vanguard, you can chuck him down, counterblast 1, and he gets 10,000 power for each of your opponent's open rearguard circles. So depending on how they've recouped from you retiring units on their board, depending on the deck they're playing, you can get this guy an additional 20, 30, 40, 50,000k shield. And so yeah, you only need the 1 because often when your opponent has that Vanguard swing with that level of power, they're probably not going to do it again. So 1 of them is fine. And yeah, he can just hit massive amounts of shield. Next, 1 Asil Orb Dragon. He's free. No counterblast like the other ones. He only gets 5k, and it's just there if your opponent has 4 or less rear guards when this unit is placed in guard circle, he gets 5,000 power. So that's almost always against this deck. It's not often that your opponent, unless you're playing, say, Excel, it's not often that your opponent will be able to have 5 or more units on the board against this deck. So having a free shield is really nice. And then finally, 1 Colburn. He's so pretty. His skill is, when he's placed, you discard a card and he gets 5,000 power for every 2 cards in your opponent's hand. So just with how the average hand count, you're pretty much guaranteed to get 10k because they're going to have that, 4 to 6 cards. So the 10k is pretty much a guarantee, pretty much. And if you're playing against decks that have larger hands and, that sort of thing, that draw a lot, whatever, That's even bigger. You can give this card 20, maybe up to 30,000 depending on your opponent's hand size. So again, like a Sil, he doesn't cost a counterblast, which is why I play him, because having 2 G guards that you don't have to counterblast for is nice. And secondly, he's probably got one of my favorite artworks. He's so dope. The artwork is too good. So that's it for the main deck of Premium Dragonic Blademaster. The only change I would make is if you're going to play with force markers, play 4 copies of him. The new Dragonic Blademaster, you know, he works. If you want to use his skill, then obviously you need to make a couple changes to get the rest in. But with striding, you're probably not going to use his skill much anyway. And also 4 copies of Bardiche, so you can not only ride to get a force, but you can search out Dragonic Blademaster if you want it. So, yeah, that was my deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.